Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening to me. First and foremost, I would like to thank Eaton, our sponsors, for sponsoring this session. Without the sponsors, these things would not be possible, so thank you very much to them. My role here this morning is twofold. One is to explain to you the role of the Construction Alliance South Africa, CASA as it's known for short, and then secondly, to give you a brief overview of the state of the construction industry. Now, I must preface my presentation, which is going to come up onto the screen in a minute, by declaring the fact that I'm not an economist. I'm purely a developer/contractor who's also trying to understand the economy. So I would be happy to engage and discuss the presentation with you afterwards. I believe you can post some questions, which I will then try and answer at the end of the session. So let's get started immediately. The role of CASA, the Construction Alliance South Africa. CASA launched in January this year officially as a result of the Rapid Response Task Team, which was previously created in response to unlocking the economy during our initial COVID lockdown last year. And we launched with 29 bodies, and currently CASA consists of 34 bodies. These bodies are varied within the construction industry, and they're not concentrated only on professionals or contractors, and I'll give you an example of some of them that are there. The Chartered Institute of Building Consulting Engineers South Africa, Black Business Council in the built environment. We have an attorney, Cox Yates Attorneys, the Institute for Landscaping Architecture, South African Black Technical and Allied Career Organization, and there are just so many that have joined us to try and be a voice for the construction industry as a whole. We consist, as I said, of professionals, contractors, statutory bodies, suppliers, being a united force that responds to the industry issues. We are formally constituted in the spirit of genuine and cooperative engagement through open and transparent dialogue across the board. And what are the objectives? The formation of CASA magnifies the yearning for a solution to challenges that we face. Now, we have many challenges within any industry, as with any industry, the construction industry. We have challenges of delivery, BEE, and skills, and many others where there is a common platform and a common vision that need to be found. As I've said, we try to ensure professionalism, fair competition, and of course, ethical business practices. And then we aim to unify and amplify the voice within the construction industry. We have big contractors, we have small contractors, we have small bodies, we have big bodies, we have professionals, we have consultants. But the common vision is for the public and the private sector should be to commit to jobs and the transparency in business. Many times I'm asked the question whether we as CASA are united. And as you can imagine, having 34 organizations or institutions, bodies belonging to one association, I would say that we are united in terms of our common goal, but we are not in terms of our position on various issues. And I think we need to be practical about that. It would be very, very impractical and naive to think that we would be united in some of our issues that are difficult issues that we need to deal with. But we have agreed that we will have open dialogue, and engagement needs to happen to anchor ourselves to the common goal. So yes, we're united in the common goal. Where we have differences, we have agreed that at least we have to discuss it in an open dialogue and in a professional manner. And I hope that answers your questions with regard to whether we are united or not. A short, brief introduction to CASA. And then my next 3 slides will take you through the state of the construction industry, which I've been asked to do many a times. Initially, in April, when I did this, I put some figures on the board, and when I looked at this last week again, I must say that the figures haven't changed much, except to say that I think it has got a lot worse. The South African construction industry is to grow by 6.2% in real terms in 2021. We need to bear in mind that that is after 4 years of consecutive decline. And as last year, as we know, last year was a really, very bad year. We had a decline of 20.3%. That's according to the Construction SA report. Now, that is very worrying. And is there room for bounce back? Yeah, a very big question. The Industry Insight claims that if the current level of the infrastructure spend, that the current level of the infrastructure spend is around 7.1%, and that should be at least 10% if we want to see growth in our economy. Now, the spend prior to COVID was at 8.5%, which was still not enough in terms of growing our economy. And we know that prior to COVID, the construction industry, as many, many other industries, have already been in serious trouble and needed some serious attention. Are we getting the attention? Well, there's a lot of talk. The talk of infrastructure spend at the moment certainly is going in all directions, including long-term, as we've heard from the government, and I will speak to that later. But the talk of infrastructure doesn't really match the reality, and this is where our problem lies. We have still seen no real growth within the economy. In 2021, the budget shows a decline of 7.2% in infrastructure spending, as opposed to an increase, which is so badly needed. Now, if our growth in real terms, if our infrastructure real spend is around about 7.1%, and we are decreasing our budget with a decline in infrastructure of 7.2%, you do the math and we can see where we are. We are not getting the numbers that we should be getting. And that is a problem, because that leads to our real issue, which is the question of unemployment. It continues, as I've said in a previous presentation many times, continues to be a ticking time bomb. Unemployment rate of 32.6 in Q1 of 2021. This does not bode well for the medium to long-term prospects. Never mind the short-term prospects that we are so dire, are so in need to resolve. And this is the real issue. If we do not create employment, we cannot sustain not only the building industry, but the entire economy. There is a place for social grants, but the social grants cannot replace jobs. It does not provide for the multiplier effect, for income to circulate and expenditure to happen and investment to happen. And that is a problem, because we know the worse the economy becomes, the less the tax base is. And you cannot continue paying social grants with less income. So it is really something that needs to be dealt with. Despite talks of the major spend, there have been no signs of significant public spending to boost the economy. David Metterklamp states that construction will bounce back, but there are issues around capacity and managing of these due to lack of skills. This is a real problem. We do not have jobs, and because we don't have work, we don't have jobs, and we don't do training, and we end up with a vicious cycle of not having the necessary skills when the capacity is needed. The issues that we referred to above is also raised by the government in its National Infrastructure Plan 2015, which much has been said about in the last week or two. It does make some provision, though, and some conditions set. It does set some conditions whereby it claims that the conditions to be met to ensure infrastructure spending are The state must ensure its delivery and procurement management processes must operate its delivery to create certainty and confidence. Now, this is a problem. We have heard many times of tenders that have been cancelled or not awarded, etc., and the inordinate amount of time that it takes to be able to get through to actually implementing tenders. It is a problem because the longer we take, the less jobs we are technically offering to people and the less work within the economy. And that, in my opinion, is a critical part of the employment process. We cannot only rely on the private sector to provide work. The public sector has to be the creator of employment. And forever and a day, the government and the construction sector has been talking about the construction sector being a catalyst for employment. Yet we don't get the jobs or the contracts to be able to transform or transfer those projects into jobs. And that is a problem which will continue until we streamline those processes in terms of delivery and procurement. The workflow must be consistent and must enable companies to plan and structure their work and make decisions around capital and human resource investments. Again, if the projects are not forthcoming, the stop-start process doesn't allow organizations and private companies to be able to plan, to be able to sort out their workflow, to create employment, to find the right people, to employ the right people, so that we can have these projects come off as efficiently as possible and as cost efficient as possible. It continues to be a challenge if we are not consistent in terms of the workflow. Regulations and the process of issuing permits must be streamlined. This is a small sentence with a huge impact. In the construction industry, we have something like 123 regulations, just in the construction industry, 123 regulations that need to be adhered to. Companies are now having to create a database of laws and regulations to be on top of things, to be able to ensure that they comply with all these rules, to be able to actually work. We know there are the more important ones like the health and safety regulations and many others that we need to do, but we really need to have a look at this. We need to streamline the planning processes, town planning processes. We need to streamline the work permit processes for construction. And as I said, 132 regulations just does not bode well for any business to be successful. Professional capacity must be available and skilled with experience. Another problem, if the economy doesn't grow, we do not train. One of the expenditures that stop when there is a declining economy or when there's no work is training and development. And really, it should be the other way around. People should be training and people should be developing skills for work to come. And we need some confidence. We need some confidence or some sign from the government to say, the work will come, get your people trained, get your people upskilled. We do not have enough skills when the time comes and all these contracts that have been promised and are being promised in the NIP 2050 comes to fruition. And that will be a problem, because then what usually happens is we import skills, and we know what importing of skills brings to the industry. A whole new set of challenges in terms of foreign intervention within our local economy. And lastly, there must be an explicit commitment to building. And it's called SA Inc. Civil Construction and Supplier Firms. Pretty much what I've said just before this is we have to inculcate a level of confidence within our own people, within our own companies. We have many companies, large and small, who are more than capable of doing the work that we are supposed to be doing. And if we do not get the jobs, and we've seen this many a time, we've seen it in the last 2 to 3 years, where organizations have gone down because there's a lack of work. Smaller companies are a little bit more resilient, but that does not mean that they are going to be sticking around for much longer if we don't get the economy unlocked. Work, work, work. That is what it's about. Getting the jobs onto the working platform and onto the implementation stages so that we can create employment. And that employment in turn will create expenditure to get the economy kickstarted. So, what is my conclusion of all this, and where should we be going? We have to transform the talk, many talks, we've had lots of talks, to deeds. We have been asking for this for the last year, if not longer, in terms of our CASA mandate, is we need to get the jobs into the implementation phases and off the paper into reality. We need at all levels, not just at national level, we need it at the provincial level, and we need it at local government level, where there needs to be a concerted effort to provide or to get these jobs into workable projects that are allocated as soon as possible, and that the work can start and that the jobs can be created. Government must make a concerted effort to get the projects going. Edward West calls it implementation paralysis. Webster Fairway of SAFSEC states, we've had a plethora of plans where vision is outlined in terms of what we want to attain, but that has been very thin on implementation. This was quoted in the MoneyWeb last week, where I was quoted also as saying, it's all fine having all these plans, but at what stage do we get to the practicalities of implementation? And 2050 is a great idea, but we need short-term measures to implement work or to get the work going for people. We need short-term measures to get the projects going now, rather than having to wait till 2050. We have to get those projects off the ground at all levels. And this is probably the most important issue today, is the ticking time bomb. First, it was youth unemployment, and everybody was talking about youth and unemployment. Now, it's just plain and simple unemployment. If we do not resolve this matter, if we do not create jobs very, very shortly, we will see a lot more of what we've seen in the last few months, or in the last month, I would say. It is a real problem, and it will not go away, because social grants will not solve the problem entirely. Jobs, jobs, jobs. The long term is great, but we have a short-term crisis, which we cannot ignore, and we cannot wait any longer to resolve the issues of job creation. It is just beyond us. And if all of this, if we get all of this right, if we get the job projects going, probably one of the things that is still lurking in the background and we have tended to ignore for now, because we have got other crises that we as a country are dealing with, is the issue of Eskom. We cannot create factories. We cannot create all of these businesses, and we still continue to have problems because of power supplies. It continues to be a thorn in our proverbial flesh of the industry. We cannot build on a platform which does not support growth, but creates uncertainty of investment. People will not invest if there is no security of power and security of continuity, to know that whatever they invest in will survive, and we will not have continuous problems with our power, with our electrical service provider. It cannot be ignored. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is my presentation in short. I have one or two questions that have been asked, or just the comments that have been made. Angela Lang asked, what do you think of the major...
John. Sorry, yeah. John.
Yeah.
Don't worry about Angela's question. That was actually more BIM related. But I was just wondering, what are the next steps? You're saying that the next steps is getting jobs into the implementation phase. What do you think that is? How is that going to be? How can we do that? What do you think the kind of steps are to actually getting that achieved? What are the stumbling blocks right now?
The stumbling blocks are projects that are in the pipeline that are not coming to fruition. You know, the government keeps on talking about, they keep on talking about preferential projects that there are. And these projects are in pipe, and we're getting them to tender stage, and we're getting them to various stages, but we don't seem to getting them to implementation stages. Unless we unlock all these infrastructural projects in the short term, because that's where the jobs are. Everybody talks about the building industry as a catalyst for employment. But we don't get the projects off the ground, and we don't get the projects awarded so that they can get off the ground. And in that way, those jobs will be created. And this is just not just the national government. We talk about national government, we talk about provincial government, and we talk about local government. Whereas now in the Western Cape, I know for a fact that they've cancelled many tenders with no reason whatsoever. Now, if you put out tenders, and those tenders are being submitted by various contractors, what is the reason? We're not given any reasons why they are cancelled. If those tenders are awarded, they are converted to employment because there's work to having to complete those projects. So it's the creation of work is when you get the projects. Now, the private sector cannot do that alone. We have seen a resurgence of the property market for coming through because of the low interest rates. Yes, that's good, fair and well. I mean, some people are doing well, but those are little pockets of excellence within the bigger construction industry.
Thanks, John. We are looking at the feed at the moment. There doesn't seem to be any more questions for you. I'm going to give it a minute just to see if there's anybody's got any more questions that I can ask John for you. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody's got any questions. So thank you very much, John. We do appreciate your time. And from all of us here at DMG and African Construction, we thank you, and to everyone online, thanks again, and we hope you're going to join us for our next session, which will kick off at, let me just check, 11 o'clock. Great. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.